Hello and welcome to the Really Helpful Club, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Austin. This is our In Conversation series where we shine the spotlight on leading entrepreneurs and business owners. And thank you already for many of you who are coming on board and joining us and waving hello. It's lovely to see so many people already. We've spoken to some truly inspirational people who've shared their journey and talked to us along the way. And I can see we've got our guest today, who's Joy Foster. And in this In Conversation series, what we do is we invite leading entrepreneurs to tell us their story. And this is our entrepreneur of the moment. This is Joy Foster. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, Joy. Give everyone a wave. I can see we've got lots of waving going on already, so I'm going to be super busy doing this. And just by way of introduction, and I'm then going to hand over to you, Joy is founder of TechPixies, which I know so many of you are very familiar with. And Joy is an award-winning entrepreneur who helps women to upskill in modern technology to help women go back to work, change career, start a business. And she's going to tell us all about TechPixies, what led her to start the business in the first place, and I think very importantly, to talk us through what life has been like during COVID and how she's built this very successful business. And I think for anyone who's looking to start their own business or to go back to work, she's going to share some really important advice as well. So Joy, please say hello.
Hello. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Always lovely to talk to you, Joy. And I've heard you talk at our various events, and we've had so many conversations over the years. And I just love your backstory. I love you. You've got such an interesting background. So why don't you begin by telling us how you come to be living in Oxfordshire and leading this amazing multi-award winning business?
Oh, well, thank you. Well, first of all, it's great to see so many TechPixies. I recognize so many of the names. There's a definite crossover between the Really Helpful Club and TechPixies. We've had some lovely TechPixies come out of the Really Helpful Club. And so I hope that might go the other way. We might have some TechPixies utilizing the Really Helpful Club. So for me, the story of how I ended up here, I obviously don't have a very British accent. I have an international accent, I like to say. I'm originally from Colorado in the US, and my husband is British, and I actually studied in London at the London School of Economics, and I came over to study for a year, and I met him, fell in love. I went back to the US, we broke up, didn't see each other for 7 years, and then we ended up in Beijing at the Olympics together. He's an Olympic gold medalist from the Sydney Olympics, and I was on the US archery team. So we found ourselves in Beijing at the Olympics, and that's when I got engaged and my whole life changed, and I ended up moving over to Europe, and that's how I kind of became an accidental entrepreneur, really. Living in Switzerland, which is where he was living at the time, I found myself married and with a very young family, and I'd given up my career to follow him and to follow his career. And so I found myself isolated at home with little children, and I didn't really know what to do. So I realized there must be other people out there like me. So I created a blog to help answer questions for people who were in the same situation as me. And I found my tribe. I found other people that were at home isolated, who'd given up their careers to follow their spouses, and was able to build a whole community around that. It's been going now since 2008. So it's been going now for 13 years. There's a community center and everything else. So that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. I just didn't know it yet.
Yeah. Gosh, how fantastic. So listen, we've got so many people on board now, everyone waving. If there's anything you want to ask Joy, this is your moment. So do pop it into the comments box. I will try and pick up on it and ask that question. But in the meantime, Joy, TechPixies is this just extraordinary business. I mean, it's had such an interesting journey. Where did the idea come from?
Well, I think, the best business is always a business that solves a problem. And, for me, I was the problem. I was experiencing the problem. I knew what it was like to take a career break to train for the Olympics. I knew what it was like to take a career break to raise children. And I knew how hard it was to get a job. In fact, when I tried to get a job while I was living in Switzerland, and I didn't yet have a family, I said to them, I want to know what the maternity policies are for the companies that you're looking at, because I was being headhunted. And he literally, this guy who was the headhunter, he stood me up, walked me out the door, and he said, I can't help you anymore now that I'd said the word maternity. So I knew there was a problem. There is a problem. It still exists. And very often, countries like the UK, where you do have provision to take time off, which is wonderful, what people do is they think, okay, I'll take 1 year off, and they take their 1 year, and then suddenly 1 year becomes 8, or 8 becomes 20. And so what I found was when I was talking to people, they would say things like, there's no way I could go back to work. I've been out of the workforce for 18 years. And what I had done in between the blog that I ran in Switzerland and TechPixies, as you know it now, is I set up a company called Made with Joy, which was a WordPress development agency. And we worked with charities. We helped get charities up and running with websites, low-cost websites on WordPress. And we taught and trained young people who are at risk of long-term unemployment. And what we found in working with the young people is that their mothers would say to me, I want a program like that. And I didn't have a program for them, but I knew that they needed one. So I asked around, and I called my friend Tony Hart, who was very well connected in Oxford. And I think this, if you've ever read Mel Robbins' book, the 5-4-3-2-1 rule, it was one of those things where I just picked up the phone and I called him. And I said, Tony, I have this idea. I want to create a digital skills school for women in Oxford so they don't have to travel to London to get the training. And there was nothing good online at the time. I mean, I know online learning has come a huge way, but I was not an online learning fan. And when we first started, I refused to go online. It's interesting how that's changed. But I will say for sure, just reaching out to someone was great, because he said to me, hey, I know about this fund. Why don't you apply for it? And that's how we got the first £16,000 to get the business off the ground.
Okay, fantastic. How interesting. Do you know, your answer just now has covered so many things, which I think will be really resonating with everyone listening and watching now, and also hopefully, everyone that watches us afterwards. It's those challenges facing women going back to work. It's the fact that there isn't actually really a decent maternity policy or a commitment to have women back into the workplace, in so many areas of life still. And I think that will really be resonating. And then also the inspiration, the journey to get started, and how you get started is just, it's really not that easy. So perhaps you could then talk about, there was the inspiration. You saw the need, because like every great business, actually what you were really doing was servicing your own need, the thing that you spotted you needed. But how's the business evolved and moved on since then?
Yeah, so I mean, it's one thing to have an idea, right? And then it's another thing to put that idea into action. First thing is take action, pick up the phone, call someone, make that, first move. And it was great. Got the money, we got going. And of course, one of the caveats of the grant that came through the Better Broadband for Oxfordshire and the Government Equalities Office was that we had to become self-sustaining. So they were going to give us the startup money and we didn't have to pay it back, but then we had to be self-sustaining after that. And I'll tell you what, that was really tricky. Building up a following from zero, building up a mailing list from zero, getting people to pay for a course that would help them go back to work was really challenging, because a lot of women said, well, I can't afford to take a course to get back to work because I don't have a job. And it's like chicken before the egg. So I had to do a lot of internal work, and I had to do a lot of kind of reassuring myself that, well, if I give someone the skills to help them go back to work and they get a job, and let's say that person on a minimum level makes £10,000 extra a year for the next 10 years, I've just put £100,000 in their pocket. So I shouldn't be worried at all about charging £2,497 plus VAT for a program that's going to change their life, when they get all the support that they're going to need for a full year in order to do that. But it took me a long time to get there. And the very first online version of the course we sold for like £180, and it was terrible. And I think we had one student who survived it. But you make changes as you go along, and you improve things as you go along. I think one of the most important things is to speak up about how you're feeling and how you're doing. And it was really interesting, because I was actually invited to a really helpful club event. This was a couple years ago, and by Renee Watson, who owns the Curiosity Box. She's like, hey, Joy, I'm doing this event. Come along with me. You're going to love it. There's going to be some amazing entrepreneurs there. And I was like, okay, I'll come along. And so I came along, and I met this woman named Addie Pinkster at the event. And Addie was just absolutely lovely. And we started talking about what I was doing and everything like that. And she said, well, why don't you come down and just pitch your business to people I know, and we'll see if it's kind of investment worthy, if you will. And really what had happened was I got to a point where I had helped 100 women return to work, change careers, and start a business, and at that time it was really mostly return to work. And I didn't owe anyone anything, but I wasn't making any money myself personally. It was a huge sacrifice on my family. And I was kind of at that point where I just couldn't be in like 5 cities at once. I could barely be in 2 cities at once, London and Oxford. And we were all face to face at that point. So I knew that things had to change, and I knew that I could have walked away, but I decided that I would pitch it to her and see what she thought. And, sometimes you just need a woman in your life who believes in you. And I remember at the end of that, she pulled me aside and she put both of her hands on my shoulders. She looked at me like eye for eye, and she said, Joy, you're amazing. The business is amazing. You're investable. Just keep going. And then I worked with her, and she helped me put together a pitch deck, and she helped me put together a pitch day. And we were able to raise £150,000, which helped me move the business online, change the business model, hire people to help me, and take it to the next level. And that was really the start of the next part of the journey. And that's really, we've just, that's what we've been doing really for the last couple of years, and really scaling the business. We have had over 560 women go through our 90-day transformational program, Social Media Magic. And we've had over 3,000 women do our Social Media Supercharge program, which is our free program, where you can learn how to use social media on, just how you use it, why you use it, when you use it, etc.
That is such an exciting journey, and I think one that really sort of deserves applause. One of the things that I think is so interesting about TechPixies is the transformation you went through, you went through quite some time ago, which is the pivot online, which COVID has forced so many people to go through. So it's as if you've rehearsed this before and you've done it very successfully, and as you said, you've raised those funds. You've managed to go through that journey of finance, which is something that I think so many people, and especially women, just don't articulate the issue over how you fund growth. But perhaps you could talk about how you pivoted online and what that did to your business, because I think everyone will want to hear that.
Yeah, I think this is, if you are multitasking and you're interested in this, don't multitask, pay attention. This is a real important thing to learn. The crazy thing is, Sarah, this is not a joke. This is real life. I spent all of the investment money and had like nothing left. And actually, let me step back. I took 90,000 initially, because that's what I had agreed that I was going to take. And I actually had people who offered me more than what I had asked for, and I didn't take it. And then I spent all of it, and then I ran out of it, and I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to need more money. And I hadn't figured out the business model. I knew that online learning was doing well. I knew people were doing well with it, but I didn't know how they were doing well with it. And so I think what's really interesting about the journey, and obviously, it's so funny, there's things that you're going through that you would call a wound. And you don't usually want to talk about a wound when you're in a wound, but when it becomes a scar, you can talk about it. You're not in the middle of it anymore. And at the time, I had to kind of like crawl back to the investors at Christmas time, mind you, and say, I need more money. So they threw in another 10,000, to kind of get me into the new year. And it was really interesting because the very last amount of money I had, I spent on an online course about how to do online courses, how to build, market, and sell online courses. And I had a course, I just didn't know how to market it and sell it. And what was great was by doing the process from the start, I actually rebuilt the course in such a way that my students were just delighted. We went from these like 45-minute monstrous like videos to 5-minute videos with, technical videos that showed them how to do little things within 2 to 3 minutes. So we had much faster wins. But I think that the number one lesson I learned was, in the world of technology and in the environment we live in now, where you can learn absolutely anything online, anything you want to learn, you can go learn online, that you can go and invest in a course in whatever you want to know how to do. If you want to be a surface pattern designer, you can go, follow Anne LaFollette. If you want to go start up a yarn business, you can go and follow, Shelley Brander. So if you want to learn how to be a teacher who sells teachable products to other teachers, you can go and follow Jamie Sears. There's there is someone out there, mostly women, but there's someone out there teaching you how to do the business the way that they've done the business in a successful way. And you need to go learn from them, because they're going to share their secrets and they're going to create shortcuts for you. And I think as soon as I learned how to build, market, and sell a course online, I then had the funds coming in from the sales to then invest in more learning. And that's what I did. I just went on an absolute, junkie. I was a learning junkie. And a lot of TechPixies who come to our program, they become learning junkies too. And I literally went from one course to another course to another course. So I learned how to build, market, and sell an online course. And then I went and I did a Facebook ads course to learn how to leverage Facebook ads to kind of grow much faster. And I did my own Facebook ads for a very, very long time. And I was something I was really scared about doing, but I learned how to do that because I knew that that was important. And everyone that I'd hired to do it for me wasn't doing it right because I wasn't getting the results. And so I think that was really important. And then I did a neuro coaching course, and I learned how to change the way that your subconscious thinks in order to tackle and move through blocks. And I think that's really, really important. So now I'm a certified neuro coach, and we've brought the neuro coaching into our program. And really what neuro coaching is understanding that 80 to 90% of what you do is based on subconscious habits in its subconscious thought. And unless you consciously change those habits, they don't change. And it takes 67 days to rewrite a new neural pathway. So it's really great. I've got those skills. We brought those into the course, and now students have the new skills as well as the neuro coaching techniques, and they can work through the blocks a lot easier. But I think for me, what happened was I didn't try and do it on my own. I sought out help, and it made such a difference. And once I started learning, it's like your brain you just explode with energy and excitement, because everything you learn that you apply, you'll either get results or you won't. And if you don't get results, then either you've done it wrong, or you need to try it a different way, or maybe it's the wrong thing for you and you need to do something else. And for me, it just really lit up my journey, it lit up my life, and it was learning really lit up my life, and I was able to share that with my students, and they love that too. So we're all learning junkies over at TechPixies, and I think that's one of the best things that you can become if you want to move forwards in life.
Thank you so much. Shared so much in that. And actually, we've got some lovely comments coming in. I'm a learning junkie. Me too. Zoe's a learning junkie. So it's obviously resonating with a lot of people. And actually, one of the things I've heard you talk about as well is about the fear of success. That I think everyone focuses in on the fear of failure, but actually the fear of getting somewhere and getting it right. Maybe you want to just talk about that quickly.
Yes, that's such a huge one. And I think a lot of people totally understand fear of failure. And that's never been my problem. I've never had a problem with failing. I failed a lot in my life. And actually, because I'm not afraid, that's why I have done so many crazy things in my life. But I think fear of success is a real thing. And here's how it manifests itself. I think it's a book called The Big Leap, and he talks about like the 4 different reasons why people, don't make the big leap or don't thrive really. And I could be getting this all wrong, but I think that was the book that explained this to me. And one of my coaches said to me, she said, I think your issue is that you're afraid to shine. And this is going to hit some people when they hear this, because, I have an amazing family. I have a wonderful family. I have a complicated family. Okay. So I have a complicated family. I have people in my family have bipolar disorder. I have people in my family, who have, other things going on. And so one of my siblings, really struggled, in school, and it was really interesting growing up in the house because I didn't struggle. And so there was part of me that was, you feel bad for doing well, especially when someone else isn't doing well around you. So you almost step back and not shine, if that makes sense. And so in neuro coaching, one of the things that you do is really get down to the bottom of these stories, because basically everything that we think about now is based on stories that either were told to us or that we adopted as we grew up. And as you start to unpick, why do I think this way? You start to identify different reasons why. I also had a girl in my like 7th grade or 8th grade class who really picked on me a lot in front of everyone else. And we were always competing for kind of being the top ranked in the class, and in the top 10, and always getting the best grades. And, you know, I didn't make fun of her, but she made fun of me. And it was almost like if I shined, I was either made fun of or I felt bad. And I think, you know, that's just my interpretation of what happened to me. But I really had to get to a place where I had to tell myself it's totally okay to shine. And actually, if you do shine, you will help others to shine too. And this is such an important message for women to hear, because so often women feel bad if they do well. And I know, you know, for example, when the pandemic hit, and our business totally took off. I mean, of course, no one could do anything, but you know, no one knew what they were doing. This was the first lockdown, and people were getting laid off or furloughed, and you know, they were stopping work, and they knew they had a problem with their tech skills, and they knew they needed help upskilling, or they knew it was a great opportunity to upskill. And we had 1,000 women go through our free training program in 1 week. And it was just unbelievable. And I think the thing about that is just that, you know, when that success comes, if you're afraid of it, and if you think, you know, or you want to hide underneath a bushel. I don't know if you know the song, you know, hide the little light of mine, I'm going to let you shine, hide it under a bushel. No, you know, it's almost like I had to create that as my anthem for life, because it's so important that if you own the spotlight and you say, I'm going to step into this and I'm going to live it out, then you show others that they can too. And I think for me, there was a mentor that did that for me, a gal named Amy Porterfield. Some of you might know her. Obviously, if you follow me, you know her. I talk about her all the time. But she runs a $16 million business. And, you know, it's amazing to watch her step into the spotlight and own that and encourage other women to do the same. And I think there's just not enough women who own the spotlight. And I think we really need to do that. So, but it was a major shift for me. It was a major shift. And just going back to that situation where we had 1,000 women sign up, the guilt that I had was all these businesses are falling apart. You know, right and left, you know, we know that businesses are folding right now. And my business was doing the opposite. We grew like 500%. You know, it was incredible. And I had to really say, I'm not going to feel guilty about this. I'm going to feel proud of this. And I'm going to shift my focus onto the fact that I got to help 1,000 more women gain confidence with technology so that they could return to work, change careers, or start a business. And I think if the purpose for why you're doing something is greater than the guilt that you feel, then that really helps. But it was a real mindset shift that I had to make. And it's a very important mindset shift that women need to make.
Absolutely. Is one of the things we had a workshop yesterday, in fact, all about how to kickstart your confidence, how to reignite it after a career break. And one of the things that we were talking about was how to play down that inner critic that I think women just feel, you know, in their minds, and how to actually focus on the inner mentor and to allow yourself to, as you say, to shine, to, you know, to move forward, and rather than to let that inner critic, you know, have the dominant voice.
Well,
so look, I'm mindful of time. I feel we could go on for ages, but I'm very conscious of time. There have been so many lovely comments here. Joy has always been a champion for others. So nice to hear she's becoming her champion for herself. Here. That's really, really well said. Thank you for that. And
well, can I just add one thing, Sarah? Because I think this is really important. I think a lot of people think they can solve this problem by just saying affirmations, and you can't. So just one little neuro coaching tip on this that will really help you when you're trying to basically correct a negative thought that's holding you back, is to find evidence in your life where that wasn't true, right? So find evidence in your life where, you know, that like, for example, I have a gal that I'm coaching right now, and she has this feeling like she can't help other people. Like, who am I to help someone else? I don't know what I'm doing. And I said to her, well, tell me an incident in your life where you figured it out and you were able to help someone. And she was able to rattle off a bunch of people that she was able to help and how she helped them. And we were able to create the new thought, which is, I can figure things out and help people. But you have to have that, your brain has to have evidence that you've actually done something in the past. So what happens is we always go back to the evidence that says we can't do something, but that's only part of the story. You have to go back to the evidence that says you can.
That's really important advice. And so thank you for sharing that. And what advice would you give? I mean, you provide an amazing opportunity for women looking to reskill, take their next step. what advice would you give to women right now, as you say, so many people being furloughed, you know, in so much way, there's so much challenge, but there's also opportunity. What advice would you give to anyone looking to take that next step?
Well, here's the best advice I'd give you. Think about a woman who goes in for an interview for a job, and they get the question, so what did you do while you were furloughed, right? And there's going to be two answers to that. They're either going to have done something or they will have not done something. And I think if you're someone on the other end of the hiring side where you're hiring someone, think about how that person's going to react. Who are they more likely to hire? Someone who's invested in their skills, someone who's invested in themselves, or are they going to hire someone who didn't invest because they were too worried that, you know, they were worried about the finances, etc. And let me be honest, I know people are worried about their finances. There's no doubt about it. However, there's a really great book that I read by Kyle Cease, and it's all about the illusion of money. And he tells the story of the three Helens, which is very apt because Helen is the #1 name in the TechPixie community. We have more Helens than we have any other name in the community. And he talks about Helen A, Helen B, and Helen C. And I'll just give a really quick summary of these three Helens. But Helen A, basically, they all win $1 million. And Helen A goes and spends her money on a flat in New York and partying all the time. Of course, this was pre-COVID. She spends her money on a Kid Rock statue and, you know, doesn't put anything away, quits her job and just parties full time. Helen B takes her money very sensibly, goes to the bank, puts it into a high interest, you know, savings account. This is, of course, also before when savings accounts would render more than 1%. But she puts it into a high savings account. She goes back and continues her job and doesn't change her life. Helen C takes the $1 million. She puts some of it away, but she then goes on a worldwide trip, of course, pre-COVID. And she, you know, learns how to do pottery and yoga, and, you know, she goes all over and travels and sees all these different things. And then she comes back and she collates all her thoughts and she puts them into a blog, and then that blog turns into a book, and then she becomes a thought leader. And the moral of the story is not which Helen do you want to be at this point, but it's when the market crashes and all of them lose all of their money and all of their security, all of their job security, etc. Which of the three Helens is going to be able to rebuild her life the fastest, right? Helen A, who blew all of her money on partying, Helen B, who played it safe all the time but didn't expand herself, or Helen C, that went all in and expanded herself. And I think, you know, to me, Helen C is the person who is going to be able to rebuild herself the fastest. And I love that analogy in the book. And I really strive to live my life as Helen C. Try to be a little bit sensible too, like Helen B, and have a little bit of fun every once in a while, like Helen A. But, you know, I try and live 80% of my life like Helen C.
Very good advice. Thank you for that. And perhaps I mean, there's so many things going on with TechPixies, as you've already talked about, but perhaps you can just sort of highlight some of the things that are coming up in the next 6 months and where you see it going for you and also for the business.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm very excited about the next 6 months. We have our Social Media Supercharge program, which we have helped thousands of women go through. It's a free program. It's 7 days long. It starts on the 1st of February. So if you're watching this and you haven't done it yet, please go join socialmediasupercharge.com. We have a VIP option as well for ladies who want to take it a little bit more seriously. And then we also have our Social Media Magic program, which is a 90-day transformational program. That comes after Social Media Supercharge if you love it and you want to keep going on with us. And then we've got a new program starting. I can't say that much about it, but it's going to be for people who finish our 90-day transformational program and want to go deeper on the business side, the online business side. So that program will be releasing in May. So we're really excited about all of the changes that are happening. And we're rolling out a new learning platform at the moment, which I'm working on and I'm really excited about. Just been building it all of last week and this week. So yeah, we've got a really exciting future coming. And of course, we've introduced neuro coaching to our curriculum as well, because I'm now certified to do that. So it's very exciting days at TechPixies.
Never standing still, always moving forward, and always a huge inspiration. My last question for you is, what's your top tip for that person wanting to start their business? You've gone through a huge learning curve, absolutely sort of vertical. What is your single biggest tip for anyone looking on saying, yeah, I'm gonna take my moment to shine. I'm gonna suppress that inner critic. I'm gonna go for it. What is your one tip for them?
Okay, so can I give two, or can I only give one?
You can give two. Go on, but we'll allow it. I think I'd be in terrible trouble if I didn't let you.
They go on, they feed on each other. Okay, so my top tip number one is take action. take action every day that's getting you closer and closer to your goal. So I think a lot of people have a goal, they have a dream, but they don't take action, right? So if you want to go run a 10K and you don't actually put your running shoes on and go out and go for a run, you're never going to do it. So you've got to take action. You've got to break down the big, hairy, audacious goal. We call it a BHAG. Break it down into little pieces and do one piece at a time. You know, the fastest way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Terrible, terrible phrase, but it does illustrate the point. And then the second thing, and I wish someone had said this to me sooner. I think a lot of people know the first one, you know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just go do it. I think the second one is probably more important, but you can't have the second one without the first one. And that is that you need to reflect on your wins. So at TechPixies, everyone on our team, when we have our team meeting, we go through and we say, okay, what was your personal win? What was your business win? And I know a lot of business owners who do it every single day, especially when they're first starting, like, what are my 3 wins from today? It's so, so important that you feel like a winner every day before you become one. Because if you have the mentality of becoming a winner, or, you know, being a winner every day, then you will feel like a winner every day. The problem is, people wait until they reach these big, huge goals that they have to then tell themselves that they're a winner. And the problem is you never feel like a winner. And it always feels like a slog. And you don't realize all the little teeny bits of progress that you're making along the way. And that is really essential to progress, is recognizing that you are making progress. And I know Padma's here watching right now. And I know this is something she started to do, because I get messages from her regularly saying, okay, well, I learned this, 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 and this, you know, so every time she tries something, she goes, well, what did I learn from it? What did I learn from it? What's my wins? And that will build her a very successful business, because she's taking into account the wins as she goes along. So very, very important to write down your wins. And don't forget to think about the things you're grateful for, because I think after a really tough day, if you can sit down and be grateful for the little things, like running water and, you know, a roof over our heads and, you know, things like that, it will help you.
Joy Foster, always an inspiration. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. If you haven't seen the whole of this, then please catch up on it on the Really Helpful Club website. And of course, we're going to be sharing it on IGTV and then on LinkedIn and all the other social media channels as well. Always an inspiration. Please come back and talk to us again. And overriding message, don't be afraid to shine. Thank you so much, Joy. And with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.